Welcome to the show of Entrepreneurship and Original Development podcast. Each publication in our journal is a great opportunity to share significant and audacious contributions to a large audience. My guest today is Elliroma Gardiner from the QUT Business School, Brisbane, Australia. She recently published an article entitled Exploring the Impact of Entrepreneurship on Physical and Psychological Health in the Context of Active Aging, a systematic review. She co-authored this paper with Jack Adams, Jonas de Bruyl, and Johan Meis. It has been published in Entrepreneurship and Regional Development, a journal edited by Taylor and Francis. Elliroma, welcome to our podcast.
Thank you so much for having me.
Can you tell us what is the origin of your paper? Why have you decided to address this particular topic, and what is the question you aim to answer?
Sure. So I'm an organisational psychologist, and my research largely focuses on ageing, active ageing, and ageing workers. So I'm really interested in what we can do to better support the working lives of individuals aged 55 and over. So when we talk about active ageing, we're talking about the process of optimising opportunities for health, participation, and security in order to enhance quality of life, as people age. My colleagues, on the other hand, they come from a completely different research area. So Professor Mays and Associate Professor de Bruyl and Dr. Adams, their research is mostly in the entrepreneurship space. So together we were really interested in how entrepreneurship and ageing fit together. Is entrepreneurship a viable option for older individuals? Does entrepreneurship support or hinder health? So these are the questions we were interested in. So specifically, we wanted to know whether or not entrepreneurship made people's health better or worse as they aged, as well as understanding the relationship across the lifespan. And we're also interested in different cultures as well in different regions. So in order to answer this question, we undertook a systematic review, and we identified and analysed 78 papers which measured health outcomes amongst entrepreneurs. We looked at both qualitative and quantitative data, and we included grey literature as well. So we aim to conduct a comprehensive review in order to search out or work out what the relevant papers were and what the relationship between health and entrepreneurship was.
What are the main contributions of your paper?
Well, I think there are at least three main contributions that I see our paper making. First, our body of work really shows that entrepreneurship can support good health amongst entrepreneurs. Our work demonstrates that the role of an entrepreneur, in particular, like the nature of their work, the outcomes associated with being an entrepreneur, provides really unique opportunities and resources that can be beneficial for the health of entrepreneurs. We also find, though, a second contribution, I think, is that our work also shows that there's some negative health impacts associated with entrepreneurship. So we found that some aspects very specific to the role of being an entrepreneur, such as role overload, these people work really long hours, they have really demanding roles and role conflict. They have to be everyone sometimes, especially when they're starting out, they have to be the CEO, the errand boy, the accountant, all of these things together. And so that can create a real huge amount of work and conflict within that role. And that seems to be leading to a lot of really poor work-life balance, which can be detrimental to health. So not all entrepreneurs experience this, but our research shows that, having enough resources and skills to cope with that can actually help mitigate some of those negative health outcomes. Finally, one interesting contribution that our research makes is that it really, because we reviewed so many papers, we reviewed over 2,000 papers in order to whittle it down to the 78 that we included, we really found a lot of methodological discrepancies or deficiencies really in the field. And this is quite a surprise because, when we're thinking about the number of studies that have been done on entrepreneurship and aging, we found that there was a lot of things that were missing. So most of the research, over 90% of the research is actually cross-sectional. So it's really hard to make strong conclusions about the causality of these variables or the relationships. We also found that very few studies, so only about 16% of the sample, actually included cross-country comparisons. We know that entrepreneurship is very much a contextual type of phenomena. So not taking into account where, the study is taking place or comparing across countries really gives us very little insight into how culture, how context influences the health and entrepreneurship relationship. We also think that, these deficiencies, it was great for us to kind of find them because, looking on the bright side, it really helps us pinpoint where we need to move as a field, what research needs to be conducted. So I'd say those are the main contributions our paper makes.
What was for you the main theoretical or maybe methodological challenge or challenges in addressing such a question?
Methodologically, it is always challenging completing a systematic review. The very nature of this methodology means you have to be, extremely methodical and consistent. It took a great deal of time to test and finalize the search strings that we used across the 5 databases that we searched, and then screening, reviewing over 2,000 papers to arrive at the final sample of 78 papers in order to extract data was quite challenging, particularly because no 2 studies are the same. So ensuring that we captured all of the relevant and unique information from all of the papers, but then being able to balance that with synthesizing information in order to kind of condense it and to report back in like a streamlined manner was also a challenge. But we really enjoyed it. The work was really great to do because it, doing a systematic review provides a great opportunity for you to come up to speed really quickly on a topic. And given the complexity of this topic and the disparate studies that we found, this really was the ideal methodology, I think, to really come to understanding of what's actually happening in the field. I'll just add though, in terms of theory, I think the challenge with this project from a theoretical point of view is that there isn't a great understanding about what active aging is. And I think sometimes when we think about age and entrepreneurship or age and a particular phenomena, we often think about it at a particular age. There isn't enough research, I think, from a theoretical point of view, really looking at the lifespan development of entrepreneurs and this relationship with age. So I think that from a theoretical point of view was a challenge and something we really had to think about because it's part of making sure that the review is comprehensive is being able to situate it within that broader field. But I would also like to mention that, one great thing from a theoretical point of view is that our work really emphasizes or highlights maybe, the explanatory power of the job demands resources model. We found this model, which isn't often used in entrepreneurship literature, to be a fantastic model to explain the findings of our research.
During your research journey, what was your biggest surprise or maybe the most counterintuitive result?
Oh, this is great. So I think it's a great question because from my point of view, I think being an entrepreneur is a tough gig. These days, especially in the early days, like there's so much competition. Everyone wants to be an entrepreneur and not everyone makes it. So being an entrepreneur, starting a new venture, it's an all-in situation. The entrepreneurs live and breathe everything they do. It's all consuming, and it's something that people really dedicate their whole self to. So from a psychological point of view, I found it really surprising at the number and the diversity of studies which actually reported a positive association between entrepreneurship and health. So that to me was a great finding, a positive finding, but definitely something that I found surprising. And, the evidence is quite compelling. So, for instance, we found that more than half of the studies that looked at work-life balance and entrepreneurship found a positive relationship. More than 70% of studies that looked at work engagement found that entrepreneurs reported very high levels of satisfaction and engagement at work. And almost 80% of the studies that looked at life satisfaction reported that entrepreneurs revealed having high levels of satisfaction, overall quality of life. So it seems to be that despite the challenges and despite how difficult it is to be an entrepreneur, there's actually some really great health outcomes that can occur. So I think that was probably the most surprising, counterintuitive result that we found in the study.
What are the main implications of your work for entrepreneurs, managers, policymakers, practitioners in general?
The main implications of our work for entrepreneurs, managers, and practitioners is really a better understanding of the unique risks and opportunities inherent in the entrepreneurial role in relation to physical and psychological health. For example, the autonomy of being an entrepreneur, getting support from your family and friends, The financial benefit and the intrinsic interest in actually doing the work is really important for entrepreneurs. And these factors actually support the health of entrepreneurs. However, our research also shows that the high demands of the role, the need for the entrepreneur to wear these multiple hats, and sometimes the loneliness and the difficulty of the role can actually be really detrimental to health. It can make things very challenging. So entrepreneurs can overcome this if they have enough support and resources. So that could be in the form of, finances, could come in the form of having really great staff, or having great business acumen, although perhaps that isn't enough. It's about having a range of supports to actually manage those demands. So I think our work provides some really practical insights into getting a good understanding of, like I said, the risk and the opportunities, the good and the bad, of being an entrepreneur in relation to health. And it also indicates that just being cognizant of this need to balance demands with resources can actually help to improve the health of entrepreneurs, or at least, reduce the threat to health that entrepreneurs might experience throughout their life, as an entrepreneur.
Thanks a lot, Elliroma, for participating to our show and presenting your paper entitled Exploring the Impact of Entrepreneurship on Physical and Psychological Health in the Context of Active Aging, a Systematic Review. All our podcasts are available on entrepreneurship-ed.com and on the main podcast platform.
Great. Thank you so much.